Do you have the calculator too? Eric? Okay. So, we just quizzed on arithmetic sequences. Arithmetic just means that the difference between each number is being added or subtracted. Now we're doing geometric. The difference is it's being multiplied or divided. Okay? Those are the only differences. If you look at your formula sheet, you'll see where it says arithmetic on one side and then geometric on the other. Okay? So let's start with this. We have our terms up top, and we have the number for each term on the bottom. So we need to find the common ratio. Okay, that's what we call this in geometric. Okay, it's going to be the ratio. Last class we were looking for the common difference, which we labeled with just D. Now we are just going to label this R. All right, so it says your second term divided by your first term. Well, what's your second term?
32.
32 divided by your first term? 64. What do you get? Type it in. 32 divided by 64. Math, enter, enter. Don't give me this.
Divided by 64 into
32 divided by 64 is 5.5.
Okay. Math, enter, enter. Because I don't want to have decimals, so it's going to be 1/2. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Your third term, which is 16, divided by your second term, which is 32. 16 divided by 32?
1/2.
1/2. All right, your fourth term, 8, divided by your third term, which is 16. 8 over 16? 1/2. And last, we have my fifth term divided by my fourth term,
1/2 again.
which is 1/2. Do you see what the common ratio is?
1/2.
The common ratio is 1/2. You can write that down. Your common ratio is 1/2. So what we're doing, whenever you get stuck and you don't know how to find your ratio, pick a number and divide it by the previous term. Okay? Then it'll tell you what your ratio is. Now it says you try. Okay? Well, let's look. I can't tell from just looking at this what it is. I'm going to divide. 6 divided by 2 gives me, what's 6 divided by 2?
3.
3. Alright, then 18 divided by 6. I'm just taking a number and divided by the one in front of it. So that gives me 3. 54 divided by 18 gives me 3. What's my common ratio?
3.
3. Someone else asked, can I just say that we're multiplying by 3? Yes. If you can see from 2 to 6 to 18 and 54, we're multiplying by 3. Well, there you go. There's your ratio. But we do it this way, so when we have like fractions, it's easier to see. Look at number 2. 2 divided by 1 gives me 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. Just right there, do I have a common difference? I do?
No.
They're the different numbers, so no. This is not going to be geometric. On your homework and on your quizzes and your tests, if I'm telling you to find like the recursive or explicit rule, it's because we already have a common ratio. You just have to find what it is. All right, look at number 3. The sequence below is a geometric sequence. All right, so I basically have all these terms. 3 is my first term, 6 is my second, 12 is my third, 24 is my fourth, 48 is my fifth term. They want me to find the sixth term. Well, what am I doing to get to each number? What's my common ratio? It's not adding. We know we're either multiplying or dividing, huh?
Yeah, no, times 2.
Times 2. Your ratio is just 2, okay? If you say divided by 2, that will make it smaller. Okay, so if you check your ratio by doing 6 divided by 3, 12 divided, like I know we're dividing, but our ratio is just whatever that number is. So find the sixth term of the sequence. What's my sixth term going to be? My fifth term was 48. We said that my ratio was 2. 96, good. Alright. They want me to find the 10th term. Well, first I have to find previous terms. What's my 7th term going to be?
$192.
192? What about my 8th term? 384. My 9th term? And my 10th term. Do you guys understand how Eric got those numbers?
No.
He just multiplied by 2 every time. Our ratio was 2, right? They gave us what we're starting with, so 48 to find my next term, he multiplied by 2. So he got 96. But they asked for the 10th term, so I had to keep going. 96 times 2, 192. 192 times 2, 384. 384 times 2, 768. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought it was the same amount.
You thought he was just magical? Making up some of the right answers.
It was added numbers. That was the one like 192 plus. So 48.
Multiplying by 2. And he could have been adding the same number twice, but multiply by 2. Alright, look at your formula sheet. You guys see where it says arithmetic on one side, right? And then it has geometric. We wrote down ERS, right? We're going to do the same thing for geometric. Our first equation, we're going to write an E. The one under that, so that one's E. The one under that, we're going to write R. The next one is R for recursive, and then SS. We're not going to cross anything out like we did the first one. For geometric, we could use all 4 formulas. When it says E, that means explicit. That's kind of like our original. That's what we do everything with, yes.
Wait, so when you're saying when you go all 4, so the one that has S and then next one has S, how do you know which one to use?
We haven't even got there yet.
Okay.
Just wait till we get to some. Alright, so it says, writing a rule for the nth term of a geometric sequence. Write the rule for the nth term of the sequence and then find your 11th term. So these are my 2 things that I have to do. It says first we need to identify our first term. What's the first term here? Negative 12. And what's my ratio? Huh? You're just doing one of them. Try negative 6 again. Does that work? No, so it's not negative 6. We're not adding. This is geometric, so we're going to be multiplying or dividing. In your calculators, type in negative 18 divided by negative 12.
Oh, gives you 1.5.
Math, enter, enter.
Gives you 3 out of 2.
3 over 2. Fine. Like if it tells you it's ratio, then you know you're not going to be adding or subtracting. So we had to take that negative 18 and divide by the previous number. If you did that again for negative 27 divided by negative 18, you would still get 3 over 2. Okay? Alright, so I actually think that this is a little bit easier because you don't have to solve like you have to solve in arithmetic. Your explicit rule for geometric is right here. It's the first one on your formula sheet. We wrote E beside it. It is A sub n is equal to your first term times R to the power of n minus 1. I can put my R in parentheses. Alright, so to find my rule, what's my first term? Negative 12, what's my R?
3 halves.
And then n minus 1. This is my rule. What we did last class was we had to find our rule, but in order to simplify, we had to distribute. Here, there's nothing to distribute. Don't combine anything. You just leave it as it is. Now, we're going to use my rule to find the 11th term. Okay? So I need my 11th term is equal to negative 12 times 3 halves divided by which term are we looking for? 11. So 11 minus 1. Put this all into your calculator. And actually, if I were you, what's 11 minus 1? 10. You just write 10 there. I mean, I know that the formula says n minus 1, but when you type it into your calculator... Alright, hold on. I'm going to pull up my calculator too. Alright, so we had negative 12, parentheses, 3 halves. Did we get this far? To the power of what? 10. If you want to type 11 minus 1, go for it. Nothing changes. You should get this number. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
Alright, we don't want decimals, so math, enter, enter.
It's negative 177.4.
You should get this number. So let's go ahead and write it down. My 11th term is going to be negative 177, 147 divided by 256. Any questions on this one? All right, number 5. Write the rule for the nth term of the sequence and then find the 7th term. All right. What is my first term? 100. What's my ratio? How am I getting from one number to the next? Divide by 2. So we're just going to write, oh wait. That's where we get confused. And I actually just did it too. We're divided by 2, right? But when you do 50 divided by 100, what do you get? So our ratio is basically multiplying. So yeah, we're dividing by 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So we're taking half of everything. That's why I think it's easier to just type it to your calculator and confirm what your ratio is. Because you can do 50 divided by 100 and it'll give you 1/2. That's what you write there. Alright, so let's find the rule. My rule for the geometric explicit my first term was 100. My R is 1/2. And then N minus 1. Because we're just writing the rule, I'm not plugging anything in for N. I just leave N there. That's my rule that I could put anything in if I wanted to. But once I have my rule, I can use that to find whatever term that I want. They ask me for which term? The 7. And then take me to the power of what? 7 minus 1. Type this into your calculator, let me know what you get. I'll type it into mine too. So we have 100, parentheses, 1 divided by 2, power of 6. You guys
25,
get that number?
Yeah.
You should get 25 over 60. So my 7th term is 25 over 16. Alright, so now we have a problem where they give me whatever term I need, but they want me to write a rule. I can't write a rule without having my first term. That is a necessity for writing my rule. So let's write our explicit formula for geometric. And because we're working backwards, we're going to pretend that we're already plugged in for our seventh term. So my seventh term is 1,458. I don't know my first term. My ratio is what? What they said? Negative 3. And then n minus 1. Well, which term did they give us? 7. So 7 minus 1 is 6. But in your calculator, what is negative 3 to the power of 6? Make sure your negative 3 is in parentheses. 729, good. Alright, how do I get my first term by itself? Imagine that is an x. How would I solve for x here? Minus?
Divide.
That's being multiplied together, so I'm going to divide each side by 729. So my first term is equal to, what's negative 1,458 divided by 729?
You get negative.
Once you have your first term, now you can write your rule. My rule is my first term is negative 2, my ratio is negative 3, and minus 1. That's your official answer. Once you copy that one down, I want you guys to do, after you guys check your work against my work,
meeting inside the building out. So we make sure we're locked down.
yeah. What'd you guys get for 1 to the power of 9?
Or 1 12.
Multiply by 512 on each one. And I want to get rid of it. Those are gone, and I'm left with, and first term equals so then if we had to write a rule, our rule would be this long number times my ratio to n minus 1. Just remember that whenever they ask you to write a rule, you need to have your n's. Don't plug in a number for it. Alright, recursive rule. On your formula sheet, you guys put a big R beside this. Okay? If it helps you remember, circle this up or underline it or something, because this is your previous term. So when it says, find the next 4 in a series, it's your previous term times your ratio. Alright, so first it says just to find the explicit rule. We're doing all geometric, right? Geometric, explicit. So look at that first formula under geometric. right, we just filling what we know. My first term was what? 20, right? And if you look at the question, it says in a geometric series, your first term is 20, your ratio is 2/5. So my ratio is 2/5 to the power of n minus 1. That is my explicit rule. And then it says find the recursive rule. So look at my formula. My recursive rule, I actually want you guys to list 2 things for your recursive rule. First, I want you to tell me where to start. That's going to start at 20. And then I want you to just write the recursive rule. Your previous term, you're not plugging anything in for that, times your R, which is 2/5. You do not have to solve anything, you just have to know how to plug it in. If you guys have done that one, do number 9 on your own. Alright, so to find the explicit form, I have -4 times 2 to the power of n minus 1. You guys have that? For your recursive rule, we need 2 things, where we're starting, and then my recursive rule, which is previous term times your ratio, so times 2. You guys get those answers?
Yeah.
Good. Alright, last but not least, we're going to do sum. Alright, so you have 2 sum formulas for geometric. So you have to read your directions because this one, this equation is the first one. It says find the sum of a finite geometric series. That just means finite is like when it says find the sum of the first 30 terms. They actually give us a number, so we're using the finite one. Okay? So here's what I want you guys to do. Turn the page. And it says for the series 1 plus 4 plus 16 plus 64, so forth and so forth, find the sum of the first 12 terms. So here's my formula. Okay. All right, before we get started, let's list some things out. What is my first term? 1. What's my ratio? If you try to add it, let's try it. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Does that match? So that's not it. We're talking about geometric, so we need to multiply or divide. We're going to multiply by 4. What's the number of terms you're looking for? 12. Alright, so I have the sum of 12 terms. And all I'm doing is plugging it into my... Oh, wait, hold on. Don't want to confuse you. The formula says A1 there. Alright, so my first term was 1. In parentheses, I have 1 minus my r, which is 4, to the power of n, which is 12, divided by 1 minus r, which is 4. Everyone pay attention to this. We're going to type this whole thing into our calculator, but when we do that, you have to do it the right way. I like to do the top of the fraction first, and then divide by the bottom, and then multiply by what's on the outside. So grab your calculators. Alright, what is the top of my fraction? 1 minus 4 to the power of 12. right? Hit enter. Then we're going to divide, so I hit the division button, by parentheses 1 minus 4. Hit enter. I multiply by what's on the outside, so just multiply by 1, and we should get this number. 5,592,405. Did you guys get that number? Okay. I am strongly suggesting that you solve it this way, because if not, you may get something completely different. So the sum of those 12 numbers is going to be 5,592,405. That is my answer. On the second problem, for the series 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16, what's my first term? What's my ratio? Good. And what's my number? How many terms I want the sum of? 10. All right, so you can just look at your formula and write what you need to know. My A1 was 2. In parentheses, I have 1 minus r, which is 2, to the power of 10, divided by 1 minus 2. So in your calculators, I have 1 minus 2 to the power of 10 equals. Then I'm going to divide by parentheses 1 minus 2. Enter. Times it by whatever's on the outside. So times 2. You should get 2,046. Good. So the sum of 10 numbers is 2,046. All right, last but not least, here's another formula. That's your last formula for sum. It says the sum of an infinite geometric series. So the part that you need to know is this first part here. I'm not worried about all of this. Okay. The way that we know that we use the last formula is on what it says. It says find the sum of the infinite geometric series. So if I had the choice between arithmetic or geometric, I love geometric. Sum, I go down to the bottom, and it says infinite. So I just think about infinity.
Wait, would it be positive or negative?
What do you mean?
Right, that versus, yeah, you can be like, the negative or positive?
No, it's just saying that it's going to keep going on and on forever. You're thinking about graphs. That's not what it means. Okay, so what's my first term here? 4. And my ratio? Do 2 divided by 4. 2 divided by 4. Find your ratio.
Oh.
Your ratio is 1/2. So if I want to find the sum of infinite, I'm going to plug everything into this formula. My first term is 4 divided by 1 minus r, which is 1 minus 1/2. In your calculator, type that in. 4, enter, because we do the top first.
What are the answer?
Yep. So you can do 4 and then enter. And then divide it by parentheses 1 minus 0.5, because that's 1/2. You should get 8 for your answer. Here's the sum of infinity numbers. We're gonna skip letter B. We're gonna do one more problem. All right, so we're still using the sum of an infinite geometric series formula. So that's the one we just used to find the common ratio. What this means is that they've given me everything else. My first term is 4, my sum is 10. They want me to tell them what is R. Well, we're gonna fill everything out as we should. That's my formula, right? For sum infinite. They told me that my sum was 10, so that goes there. My first term was 4, divided by 1 minus R, because that's what I'm solving for. Now, in order to solve for R, let's imagine that R is X. I'm going to make this a proportion. So let's put that 10 over 1. Okay? And then we can just cross multiply. What's 1 times 4? 4 equals 10 times 1 minus R. All we're doing is just multiplying right now to find R. So I'm going to distribute this 10. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times negative R is negative 10R. How do I solve for R? No. Imagine that R was an X. No, I have to get rid of everything.
What am I saying?
So I have negative 6 is equal to negative 10R. And how do I get R by itself now? No. Negative 10 is being multiplied to R. Hold on, Isaac. Negative 10 is being multiplied by R. Sorry, multiplied to R, so we get rid of it.
Good afternoon, Hornets. Please burn
You want to divide.
The 8th annual Page Cicito
Your
Cup
R
soccer
should be
tournament will be held on Saturday, May 18th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
3
on
over
the
5.
HHS soccer field. The soccer tournament needs 8 teams with 14 players. If you are interested in playing in the soccer tournament, please see Mrs. J.C.